What's going on, everybody? John Arapoli here with My MMA News, and today's guest will be fighting Stephanie Page at Bellator 275 on February 25th. I'm pleased to be joined by undefeated prospect Danni McCormack here today. Danni, thanks for being here. Really appreciate the time. I know it's nighttime over there in Ireland, daytime here in the U.S. So I appreciate you making time for us here at night over there.
Thanks very much for having me on. Delighted to be on.
Hey, no problem at all. So let's start with, of course, this big event. It's special for you because it's over there in Ireland, right there in Dublin. What's this like for you to be able to fight in your hometown with all the hometown Irish fans there?
Oh, it's amazing. So first of all, I only live about an hour from Dublin, so it really works well to only have to drive up the roads to go for fight week. It also means that we get to stay at home longer than expected as well. You know, we don't have to go off a week early or anything. And then in terms of the crowd in the Three Arena, so if you've never been there, it's hard to describe it, but they're absolutely wild from the start of the night to the end of the night. They're singing, they're dancing, they're drinking. So it's a crazy night. And when you're in the dressing rooms upstairs, you can actually hear it vibrating downstairs through the roof or through the floor, through their roof. So, yeah, it's very exciting. It's going to be a crazy night.
I had an experience with Irish fans one time ever in my life, and it was right back. I was just starting to get into just being a fan of the sport, and I just happened to be in Vegas, and it was the night that Conor McGregor was fighting Chad Mendes, and we decided just as a family we're going to go eat dinner down in the MGM that night and just kind of, just see everybody kind of do their thing, see if there's any celebrities around post-fight and whatnot. And Conor obviously had won the interim championship that night, and the Irish fans were so crazy, like ripping slot machines out of the walls, hanging from the ceiling of the MGM Grand. Like, I never saw anything like it in my life. It was the craziest experience I think I've ever had in my whole entire life, and I'm still almost like baffled by it. Like, what is it about these Irish fans that makes them? It's like crazy to a degree, because that it was shell shocking for me to like see people celebrate the way how they celebrate it and got behind their guy the way how they did that night.
So I was actually there at that time as well. I was one of those fans. Before I was taking MMA very seriously, I was, quite a party goer, and I was in the middle of all that mayhem. I remember it so well. It was crazy over there. And I think the big thing is for us as a country, we're not actually that successful in sport. I don't mean to sound bad when I say that. I hope I didn't insult every Irish person that's watching this, but we don't have that many people that have done really well. And the few people that have done really well on a world stage or at a professional or Olympic level, we really, really get behind them. If we were if we had as many people as you do in the US, I think, and there was so many winners, so many people that do well, it wouldn't be the same. It's because we're from a small country, we don't have a huge population. So naturally, we don't have a lot of people that do a lot of cool things. So, of course, the fact that we own Conor McGregor is, the biggest sports star in the world. It's just crazy. So the fans kind of follow suit with that, and they really get behind someone when they do well.
So I want to ask you now about pressure. We're talking about how great these Irish fans are. Well, another popular European fighter, Michael Bisping, I remember he would always talk about when he would go to fight back in the UK, it was actually very, very, very stressful for him. So he talked about everybody that he knew growing up is now all of a sudden getting in touch with him, wanting tickets, the media obligations around England that he had to do. He said it was just so stressful to deal with all of that. Here you are now in a position similar, right? You're being pushed hard by the Bellator promotion. Obviously, you're an undefeated prospect in the sport, fighting in your hometown. Is there any pressure to any of this right now that you get a homecoming the way how you're having it?
So for my first two fights, I definitely felt the pressure. I felt every time someone said to me, "I'm coming to your fight," I was like, "Oh God, I better win." I fought all my amateur fights away from Ireland. I didn't fight in Ireland at all until my pro debut. So it was totally alien to me to fight in Ireland for that debut, and of course fight in front of a sold out crowd in the Three Arena. But once I got those 2 fights down, I really came into myself then and got more comfortable with it. So the last fight I had in November there with the crowd, I was really felt at home. You know, I had done it, rinsed and repeated it twice before. I had the fight in Milan, of course, in Italy, so there was no pressure for that anyway. But in November, I really owned in on it and didn't, you know, just got rid of that silly nervousness. At the end of the day, you're going to perform as good as you're going to perform, whether it's in the gym, it's in Italy, in Vegas, or in front of everyone in Dublin. So once you trust in your preparation, it doesn't really matter who's there, who's not there, you know.
And speaking of that preparation, I do want to now get into camp here a little bit. You're putting the final touches now on training camp. Fight night's just a few days away now. How did camp go as you're preparing for it? And obviously not just putting the final touches on it, but how did it go? And, you know, how are you feeling now just a few days away from fight night?
So it was a really fun camp. This girl that I'm fighting is a striker. So it was really exciting to like set up a game plan. And, you know, my husband is my Muay Thai coach, and he's been kind of imitating her the last few weeks. So we've had a lot of fun in training camp preparing for this fight. I always train really hard. I prepare really well. I do everything very professionally, but I also manage to always have a couple of hiccups in camp. Every single camp, something happens, whether it be illness or injury or whatever. So there was a couple of hiccups at the start of camp. I had COVID, and then a couple of other little things happened, but it kind of makes me feel like it's normal now for things to happen, and it gives me those few extra rest days when things do happen. So yeah, it'd be easy for me to sit here and say, oh, camp was amazing, it was plain sailing, but everyone's lying when they say that. It's not true. There's always things that happen. So things did happen, but I feel $1 million today as I talk to you, and I'm so ready to beat this girl next week.
All right, 2 takeaways from that there. Obviously, you said you had COVID right in the beginning of camp. We're starting to see now, luckily it seems like for the most part anyway, a lot of the COVID symptoms seem to be getting lesser now as this virus kind of progresses and seems to die down a little bit. Were you real sick with it at all? Or like, how much of an effect did that have on you during camp?
So I got it as soon as we came home from our wedding. I got it like 2 days later, literally. I think I probably got it on the plane, to be honest. And I just thought it was another sinus infection or chest infection. I usually get quite a lot of sicknesses if I get run down or tired. So I thought it was just a chest infection. And it was only 2 days later I did an antigen test and realised it wasn't. It was COVID. So it felt like a sinus infection, a chest infection, that kind of thing. I wasn't that sick. I was fine after 5 days. But then it takes about 2 weeks to get your cardio back. After the 2 weeks, then I felt I was the same as before. So all in all, it was about 3 weeks before you're really feeling yourself. But yeah, it didn't hit me hard, really.
Well, that's a good thing. And then the other thing that I wanted to ask you about from that previous answer, you said that your husband is your Muay Thai coach. What's that got to be like? Do you guys ever have like a little disagreement and then go settle it out in the gym while you're getting a Muay Thai session in there?
You know, I have a photographer, a guy that does pictures and does videos for me. And when he's in the gym, we never fight. We're always on our best behavior. So if there's like a mediator in the gym, things go plain sailing. But if, you know, I'm a bit irritated by something and we're coming into the gym, we spar maybe a little bit too hard. I might hit him too hard or he hits me too hard. And then it can kind of escalate until the round ends. And then we have a conversation that one or other of us is bringing the fire too much and we need to back down. So, yeah, we definitely have like little arguments and stuff, but we're much better when we're in front of an audience. So someone in the gym will behave well. But in terms of just regular training and drilling and stuff, you know, we never fight or anything like that. It's just the sparring sometimes can bring out those little arguments that might have come from the house. You know, I might kick him in the leg hard just because he didn't do the washing or something earlier that day.
So I did want to get your thoughts then on something too along these lines of like having your husband as a coach. So I did hear one time from a female fighter where they were saying how when they're in the gym, training with guys could be good, but they'd rather train with other high level females because there's nothing like being inside of a cage with another woman because training with guys is just a little bit different. Then at the same time, I also heard from Andrea Lee recently, and she was talking about her boyfriend Tony Kelly being her coach, and she was saying, yeah, I mean, I love training with high level women, and there's a lot of upside to that. However, men do fight a little different than women, she said, and that's because they kind of, as for the thought process, they're always like, she feels like 5 steps ahead. They're kind of setting you up to do something, and she said like being able to pick her husband's brain when it comes to fighting really is what helped her out a lot. So can you kind of relate to that? Like, is there an upside to training with men as opposed to women, or vice versa?
I agree with the first thing you said, that women need to train with women. I believe that for many years now. When you train with a girl, she brings a certain type of intensity where she really wants to win and really wants to beat you. It's a competitive environment. When you train with a man, the chances are you're not going to beat that man. They're probably going easy on you. So then they're not bringing the same kind of intensity to the round. There's no real winner or loser when it's over. Whereas when you're against a girl, there is a clear winner and a clear loser after every round. So, I really feel females training with females is very important. In terms of going with Alan or going with other guys, well, with Alan, my husband, he's obviously much better than me at Muay Thai. So he only goes a little bit ahead of my level. And as my level increases, he's going up a little bit ahead of that again. So he just brings enough to keep me improving. And from what Andrea Lee said there, that the guys think differently, I think that's because the guys are probably better. And that might sound like a really unfeminist thing to say. But I know when I talked to Alan about setting people up and setting traps and all that, I think a lot of girls maybe aren't at that level yet. But if you went against a really high level female Muay Thai fighter, she'd be probably thinking down those lines as well of setting people up and stuff. So yeah, there is a place to train with lads. You can learn lots from them and from what they do, but there's a clear speed, strength, and testosterone advantage in males versus females. So if I had to choose between the two, I would definitely take the girl rounds over the lad rounds or the boy rounds.
All right, so I do want to give a shout out to the gym here too. I know we have been talking about. I'm not sure if we actually gave it the correct shout out here. So SPG Ireland, of course, famously known obviously for Conor McGregor. A lot of high level fighters coming out of there throughout the years. I know obviously we just spoke highly about it, the work that you get in there though. But how's it helped you out personally for these last few years of being able to train there and call that gym home and really help you evolve as a fighter?
So I first started training in a different gym here in Ireland, and then I spent 7 months in Canada training in Checkmat, Vancouver. And then when I was in Canada, I just really, really wanted to come home because everything that was on my Instagram was coming out of SPG Ireland, and I was sitting in Canada thinking, what am I doing here? I should be just at home and in SPG. So after joining SPG, I very quickly understood that this was the place for me. It felt like home straight away, and John really took me under his wing very quickly. It's an amazing facility, but more importantly, it's an amazing team. We've got I think 90 fighters at the moment on the team between amateurs and pros, and they're from all parts of the world, and they all come because of John. He's the head guy that everyone is coming for. They're not coming for the facility, they're coming for John. So the more people that come, the bigger and the stronger the team becomes. When we fight here on regional shows in Ireland, the chances are SPG have a clean sweep most nights, that they win every fight. So yeah, it definitely fills me with confidence knowing that I'm in the right place in this country, and probably the right place in terms of the whole of Europe as well.
So now you're in a spot in your career, right? Your current record 5-0. This, of course, being your sixth professional fight. Whenever I talk to fighters that are in this spot in their career, they always tell me how it's like every fight, it's almost like they're trying to almost beat themselves, so to speak, to be better than they were the last time. And really, we see a lot of times too, from my standpoint in the media, what we watch for too is seeing the strides that fighters make at this point in your career between fights 3 and 4 and 4 and 5. Do you feel kind of some of that, like that you're trying to better yourself, and each time you go out, continue to make these giant leaps and strides and get better and better and better each time?
So up until now, to get to 5-0 was my goal, to stay undefeated and to beat whatever girl was in front of me. From one end of the year to the other, I'm constantly trying to get better as a fighter every single year. But once I get matched against someone, the focus really becomes on how to beat that person and focusing on that game plan. So up until this point, it's been about focusing on that person, how I'm going to beat them and how I'm going to stay undefeated. But since I've got to 5-0, realizing that that was my goal, to get to 5-0, now going into the sixth fight, I finally, decided that it's not about that anymore. It's not about staying undefeated. Well, of course it is, but it's more about showcasing my skills now and proving that I am as good as I think I am, and that I'm able to hang with any of the strawweights in the world. So I need to perform. I need to show up in this fight and put this girl away, to prove that to myself, not to anybody else. So now, we've got past the 5-0 milestone. It's time to really show my worth now at this point.
And you talked there too, right, about wanting to perform against all the best strawweights in the world. Bellator obviously isn't really known for a strawweight division. Obviously, they have a flyweight champ and a featherweight champ. Is there any talks, do you know of trying to build up a 115-pound division there in Bellator? Because I know there's not a real lot of women on the roster there for that weight class.
So there's a lot of talk, but it's me that's doing all the talk. I keep bringing it up. I bring it up in interviews all the time. If they want to create a division around me and produce a belt, then I'm all up for that. But it hasn't been something that they have took seriously so far. They don't have many fighters on the roster that's undefeated, and I've had 4 of those 5 fights underneath them as well. So I think it would be a shame for them to let me go and not give me the opportunity to become a world champion for them. But that's something we need to talk seriously about after this fight.
And I'm all in favor of that too. I'm all in favor of giving everybody the opportunities out there, and I would love to see Bellator open up that weight class and even a bantamweight weight class as well. It'd be nice to see 4 women's division there in the sport. And speaking of opportunities, I do want to actually ask you about Conor McGregor. Of course, he's opened up so many opportunities for all of the fighters over there in Ireland. And I know we talked about him before and the craziness from that Chad Mendes fight, but just what's it been like for you, obviously calling that gym home? And have you ever gotten to actually work with him and do any workouts with him? I know obviously he's, of course, an inspiration of yours, but I was just wondering if you ever actually got to do a workout with him and kind of see, what his mindset's like as a fighter inside the gym like.
Yeah, so I've rolled with him once or twice, and he taught us once as well. He did a striking class for the team. So they were, I suppose, the 3 most memorable experiences I have with Conor in the gym. And then apart from that, I've been on the mat beside him, where he's been training in his own weight division. I've been training in mine. The big thing, I suppose, to report about being around Conor is, you can't help but notice him when he walks into the gym. He's got a real aura about him. He's such a superstar. And when he asks questions, you always listen up, because he always asks the right questions, and thinks of things that most of the rest of us don't. So he's extremely intelligent and has a very high fight IQ. And that's, I suppose, one of the biggest things that I could get from being in any sessions with Conor is experience in that. In the last few years, he hasn't been around as much because he's kept his camps much smaller. The gym has exploded because of Conor. So when I first started 6 years ago in SPG, there was only, 40, 50 of us, and everyone knew each other. But since then, it's now, the conveyor belt has turned and most of the older fighters are gone and it's all new faces. So Conor keeps his camps small and keeps his circle small, which makes sense when he doesn't know a lot of the new people.
I got you. Now, one last thing now before we wrap things up, and I wasn't even prepared to even ask this question, but I know we talked about it off air, so I'm going to bring it up on air now. So, I just recently, maybe about a year or so now, I've got myself back into watching the WWE, and I became a huge Becky Lynch fan. Actually, for Halloween, I got the man T-shirt and wore a leather jacket and a pair of sunglasses, and I got this championship belt over here as part of the costume. I recently went out and bought these, like, red sunglasses just because I'm, again, a huge Becky Lynch fan. I saw her wearing red sunglasses. Wonder if they made them for guys. They do. Obviously, she has a connection with SPG. She does stop by the gym when she's back in Ireland there. I know you told me off air you haven't gotten to meet her, but obviously, she's a friend of the gym. So what's it been like whenever she has been there, the stories that you've heard?
Yeah, so I hear that she gets stuck right in. So she wants to train with the pro team every time she comes. So she wants to train, in MMA, and she rolls and wrestles with the girls and like legitimately goes for it. She gives the girls good rounds. So that's pretty cool to know. She doesn't try to be looked after or have privates or anything like that. And then they always do like a conditioning session with John afterwards, where John tries to kill them to do some sort of ground and pound on a bag or whatever. But no, she loves coming into SPG and chatting with John and meeting the team. But she mainly loves coming in to roll and to wrestle and to do jiu-jitsu, to be honest. That, she has a real interest in that. So I think Becky Lynch is too much of a superstar in WWE to think that she'd ever come over to MMA. But from what I hear from my teammates is she's well able to hang if she ever wanted to.
Well, that's something I'd love to see one day if she ever wanted to give it a try. Danny, thanks for being here today. Appreciate the time. Before you roll out, though, go ahead, plug your social media, any management sponsors you want to give a shout out to. Floor is yours. You get the last word.
Yeah, so if everyone could follow me on Instagram, I'd really appreciate that to get more followers. So it's Danni McCormack, so DANNI McCormack. Really appreciate the follow, and shout out to all my sponsors that have helped me over the years. There's too many to mention in this. But the final thing is, if there's anyone in Ireland watching this podcast or wants to come over to Ireland next week for the fight, don't miss it. Get on Ticketmaster, buy your tickets. It's going to be an absolute epic night. Another sold out Bellator Dublin card. You just can't miss it.
All right, Danny, thanks so much for the time here today. Really appreciate it. Great conversation. Make sure you guys get tickets for that fight. Go on and give Danny a follow on her Instagram like she asked. And since we're asking a request of all you guys, I'll give you guys one too. If you like today's interview, please go to the bottom, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. Also, go to MyMMANews.com for all of our great work. Go to our social media pages and give us a like and a follow on there as well. We'll see you later, everybody.